Joining me now to discuss this is Bruce Torres, Director of Communications for the American Small Business League, which fights to protect small businesses from contracts wrongly awarded to big corporations. He's also the author of God, School, 9/11, and JFK, and an accomplished actor with praise from the New York Times. Bruce, welcome to DC Dispatch. This whole thing with Mitch McConnell has been so strange. It's got the conspiracy theorists going crazy, talking about pictures being AI and everything else. But, this could have been avoided if there had been a smidge more transparency from his team, don't you think?
Oh, definitely. And what leaps to mind is what Frank Zappa said in the 1980s. Politics is show business for ugly people. He also said the military industrial. He said politics is the entertainment division of the military industrial complex. So, yeah, that's a great observation the reporter made about that photo. How does anybody know that that's her? And if his office really wanted to persuade and put out the firestorm of concern and media outrage about what's the true status of him, there's just so much more they could provide. So, what else can people do except wonder, are we being played about even this?
Yeah, I mean, and even that photo sparked a lot of like, oh, this is a former picture, which was later supposedly debunked that it was an older photo. But I mean, the fact that he's holding a paper from the day, I mean, like it's all like almost too perfect, just hanging
Hmm.
out in the hospital and a button up. Like it's just strange. But what people are really having issue with is that if this was serious, if he's been in the hospital for weeks, why did his wife just dip out shortly after the hospitalization and take this trip that's fairly raising some national security questions?
Well, true. And I like to give people the benefit of the doubt. If a wife overseas on a long planned trip says, "I've been in touch with him. We mutually decided his situation didn't warrant my return." With most other people, you would just take them at their word. Unfortunately, given the scrutiny and the controversy of what she did in office, and he being one of the most powerful senators with all kinds of scrutiny as to his ethics and propriety, etc. They just really needed to give us a little bit more. No one should be surprised that there is this level of scrutiny. It's sad to refresh oneself about her controversies and to just see like, wow, the Department of Justice had a chance to follow up on the recommendation um, uh, to investigate her further on some charges in 2020 or 2021, and it wasn't done. And we who follow these things just would bet everyone's innocent until proven guilty, but we would bet there just needs to be more scrutiny about these kind of people and everything that they do, because unfortunately the odds are, where there's such smoke, there can be fire. Call me cynical, call me jaded, call me informed, call me experienced. Um, and I appreciate you showing our homepage at the top there. We've got yet another scandal no one needs to hear about, but we do really important work. ASBL.com, and happy to open that up for conversation if you'd like.
Yeah, definitely. And we will get to that. I just want to have a couple more questions on this particular topic. With the timing of his absence and then the sudden death of Lindsey Graham, do you think, how do you think this is playing into the critical time for reconciliation, Save America Act, and other priorities in the Senate? Do you think it's making a difference?
Well, it seems to be clogging it into futility and gridlock, and that unfortunately is par for the course for the Senate. What comes to mind is the memoir of a longtime senator, now deceased, Ted Kennedy. His memoir, I think called True Compass, came out in 2010. He had served in the Senate beginning in 1962. And toward the end, he makes the very sad observation there are many forces applied to senators to prevent them from legislating and to create this intentional gridlock. And because he said, and I paraphrase, because things are working exactly the way the giant corporations and moneyed interests have caused them to function, and the system works for the 0.1% of the owners of the biggest companies and corporations and banks who every year extract more and more wealth from the American people. Washington works perfectly for its funders. And that's not you and me. I'm not talking about the taxpayers. I'm talking about the lobby money, the lobbyist money that floods into Congress. You could fairly say, and many do, as do I, Congress isn't drowning by the influence of lobbyists. They are so flooded with donations from corporate interests. Congress is filled with lobbyists. They are the lobbyists representing their funders, their corporate backers.
And then there's this homogeny of like the lobbyists and then also people working as congressional staff. And so just finally on this topic, Representative Kat Cammack is pushing legislation that would finally require background checks. This is wild that I didn't know that they didn't already require background checks for all congressional staff, including full disclosure of dual citizenship and foreign employment. What are your thoughts there? I mean, this is unbelievable that we didn't already have background checks.
Agreed, and it's just another example of, even from the surface and from the hip, look how that lets into Congress in support positions, etc., folks who might have ulterior motives and who might have nefarious purposes and have dual loyalties consistently, across the board. Where and when do the American people get a break? Well, that's on us. And kudos to you and the network and this show and your station, your channel, your platform to have honest and candid conversations about how well is Washington working? Because it's absolutely, it's a crisis point at this point and has been for decades, and there is no more worthy kind of conversation than these kind of things.
Yes, absolutely. But at this time, I want to know what is going on with the American Small Business League. How did you get involved? What are you working on right now?
Oh, thank you. We were created by Lloyd Chapman, our founder and president, to expose the fact that big businesses regularly get the lion's share of small business contracts, which deprives the economy of the stimulus intended by the 1953 Small Business Act, which created the SBA, Small Business Administration, to do a few things, provide credit, but also steer a fair portion of federal contracts to small businesses. For many decades now, that's been the goal of 23% of all federal contract dollars should be steered to small businesses. And here's the problem. Every year the SBA says, we did it, we surpassed it, everything's fine. But we've found for 40 years, Lloyd Chapman for 40 years, ASBL for 22 years, that no, the vast majority of small business contracts are really going to big businesses. And there's a whole muddle and fuddle and reasons and subterfuge and excuses and justifications that let a small business contract go to a company with 5,000, 10,000, 75,000 employees, that lets the different agencies tell the SBA, we met the goal that in that contract, 16% went to small businesses. We sue, Congress investigates, the Inspector General of the SBA looks into it and finds out, nope, in that contract, 16% didn't go to small businesses. In reality, 0.5% or 1.3% of that contract total went to real small businesses. And our flagship tip of the spear is our Don't Cheat Women project, which wants to raise from 5% to 15%. The goal of that amount of the contract dollars go to women-owned small businesses. It's not DEI. It's not a thumb on the scale. It's not affirmative action. It's not an unfair advantage. When we learn that women own over 40% of all businesses in the country, they sell what the government buys, the goal is only 5%, and it's only been met supposedly twice in the last 32 years. It's got to be discrimination under civil rights law. And worse, since April, there are two bills in Congress that want to abolish that goal altogether. And if that happens, we're raising a hue and cry about that. If that happens, it also would wipe out the minority goal. 100% of the federal contract dollars, $750 billion, $800 billion, could go to companies owned by white men. And at our Substack, ASBL.Substack, I'm fire hosing you, Kristi. ASBL.Substack, pinned at the top, May 21st article that explains all this, how to contact the congressman and the senator who introduced their identical bills and the committees that these bills went to, because we are nothing but a small business nation. Know thyself. 99.9% of all businesses in the country are small businesses. You wouldn't know it listening to the mainstream media. They talk about
Yeah, you
Wall Street
wouldn't.
and NASDAQ, and you would think, oh, we're just giant companies. No, we're being starved of a legally entitled goal of a certain amount of contract dollars that ought to flood to us, and small businesses would create jobs. Oh, Kristi, it's endless. The big businesses that get the small business contracts, they're already big. They don't create any new jobs with that work, whereas the economy would boom with hundreds of thousands, maybe 2 million extra jobs every single year. This is incredible. I'm an old man. Look how fired up I get.
Well, small businesses are the backbone of America. And I grew up watching my father and own several small businesses throughout the years, and the grit that it takes, the integrity it takes. And I'm very passionate about small businesses, and we all should care about this more, because these big corporations owning the biggest share, even though they don't make up the biggest portion of ownership with these companies in the country, is adding to the corruption that we're reporting about every day. It's absolutely adding to the corruption. So we do need more representation of everyday people that had to work from the bottom to the top, and definitely believe in that mission. So I encourage people to check out your Substack, where you're giving information on these things. What are other ways that we can support the ASBL?
Well, print out that pinned article at ASBL.Substack at the top, May 21st. Save women-owned and minority-owned businesses. Print it out. It's a call sheet. And take 15, 20 minutes, leave some voicemails, talk to the chipper young people who work in those representatives' offices or in those senators' offices. And then let that be the start of a habit where once a month, twice a month. There's also a link where you can find your senator and your senators and your representative. Can you imagine, Kristi, if everyone who complains about political things actually called their representative and their senators once a month, twice a month about the things that matter to them and that were important to them? There's so many more of us. We could turn this ship around. We could solve our problems. We could flush corrupt people out of office, and we could get transparency and accountability and make Congress and the Senate and all the federal agencies work for us. But we have to care about this on a daily basis, just the way the founders tried to teach us.
Yeah, absolutely. So instead of writing that next social media post, take some real action and find out who your representatives are. Use the help of the ASBL, and make your voices be heard in a real actionable way. Well, I appreciate all your insight, Bruce, and we look forward to having you on again soon.
That'd be great. Thank you very much.